Your Highness, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates and ruler of Dubai. Your Excellency, Minister Mohammad, Abdullah Gergawi, Minister of Cabinet Affairs and Minister of the Future. Your Excellency, Ministers, members of the Future Councils, ladies and gentlemen, and dear friends. It is such a great pleasure to be back here in Dubai. I came the first time to this country in 1973, and in the meantime, it nearly has become a second home. It is a country which constantly extends the boundaries of what is possible, and a country which is quickly emerging as a leading global hub for the future. From the world's first 3D printed building to plans to introduce autonomous driving and to even constructing a hyperloop connection between Dubai and Abu Dhabi, this country continues to inspire with its innovative capacity. So it's very logical to have Dubai, the United Emirates, as a partner when we assemble the biggest brainstorming meeting in the world, our Global Future Councils. Equally impressive and important in this country is the responsive and responsible leadership we see here, which is so crucial to ensure that innovation is harnessed for improving the state of societies. In all the soul-searching and turmoil that many of us went through last week, it is so encouraging and refreshing to be in a country that teaches the world to be forward-looking, to fully embrace diversity, to have even a minister here of tolerance, and to always see more opportunities than threats. Your Highness, Your Excellency, I would particularly like to thank you for the partnership we have built over so many years. Without this partnership, this meeting just would not be possible. The feeling of excitement for the future, which is so much in the air here, is not shared everywhere in the world, unfortunately. It is in contrast with a deep sense of turbulence and uncertainty, which we see now globally. So people ask the question, how could it actually happen? And I want to present to you 4 deep transformational forces which are at work, which are interconnected, and which are reinforcing each other's impact. The first transformational force and change is certainly the 4th industrial revolution. I'm very proud to say, not the word 4th industrial revolution, but the concept was actually born here last year during our meeting. Then we decided to take it up at our annual meeting in Davos. I wrote a book. It has now been translated into 18 different languages and sold several 100,000 times. And I'm particularly honored and pleased, Your Highness, that you wrote the preface for the Arabic version which just came out. So I will not go into the impact this fourth industrial revolution has on society, on business, on all our lives. I just would like to make a small remark. When we look at the elections in the United States last week, there was a lot of discussion about jobs which were lost through globalization. But actually, as research shows, out of 5 jobs, 4 job losses were a consequence of the new technological innovation, and only 1 was to transfer the jobs to Mexico or other countries. The second transformational force which we witness and which has a tremendous impact on societies is the slow growth of our global economy. Instead of growing by 5% as we did before the financial crisis, we look now forward to what some people said, my friend Larry Summers, a secular stagnation with only 3% for quite a long time. Now people ask why. Let's not forget we have globally a debt burden of 225%. So it's like to run with a backpack on your shoulders. But we have to see the slow growth also in relationship with the fact of the growth of global population from 7.4 to 9.7 billion people in 2050. And if we add the disruptive character of the fourth industrial revolution, we can imagine what challenge we have in the world to maintain or to foster social inclusion and to create the billions of jobs, particularly for the young generation. The third transformational force which we witness is the transition from a unipolar to a multipolar world. And it's actually not just going from a unipolar to a multipolar world, it's going from a uniconceptual to a multi-conceptual world. You know, I think it was in '92 when Fukuyama, after the end of the Cold War, wrote his book, The End of History, assuming that now, I would say, Western values have been accepted everywhere in the world. But what we see, frankly, is an end, whether I personally or others like it, is an end of Western dominance. And cooperation in the future in the world will be less on the basis of shared values and much more on the basis, and has to be much more on the basis of shared interests. The fact that non-state actors also have achieved tremendous destructive power creates an explosive mix for our future in terms of its security and vulnerability. In addition, of course, what we see probably is that today people cannot be, I look at Europe, not be so much anymore, or are not anymore so much divided according to ideologies as we have seen in the past, but much more the fault line is between those who embrace change and those who reject change. So, the fourth transformational force is the fact that We have an identity crisis on an individual level, very often on a national level. Old systems have been broken down. Everything has become much more dynamic. So it's much more difficult to develop your distinctiveness. And of course, there is the lure of false recipes. So those four forces, fourth industrial revolution, low growth environment, the transition to a multipolar world, and the search for new identities will determine the world of tomorrow. And I think are also at the cause of what we have seen with Brexit and with the American election. Now, what has to be done? How can we respond? I have 5 proposals. First, we know that globalization and meritocratic economic systems form the basis, probably the only basis, of economic development and social progress. Today, we should not forget, billions of people have a better, healthier, and more secure life on a global basis. What has happened is that a significant part of the global elite, inevitably created by such open dynamics, lost the sense of solidarity when it was needed more than ever before. Since we are living in a world of transparency, and such a world does not tolerate too much inequality. To close the social gap, to foster social inclusion, it means living up to the World Economic Forum's motto since over 40 years. Entrepreneurship in the global public interest. Or in other words, it's entrepreneurship which is driving the economy and social progress, but it always has to serve society and people. The second reaction is we have to accept and recognize that it is technology in very accelerating and often disruptive ways which drives economic and social change. We need new forms of agile cooperation to ensure that innovation will be the source, as we see here, for societal progress where everybody is profiting and no one left behind. And here, I'm pleased to share with you that the World Economic Forum has announced the creation of a Center for the Fourth Global Revolution in San Francisco to look exactly how technology can be best used for the benefit of people. The third reaction which we have is to recognize that there is no simple response, no grand unifying ideology. What we need are not simplistic policies driven by emotion, but rather pragmatic, future-oriented, and systemic efforts, systems leadership, to construct our future in exploring the new and exploiting the lessons of the past. We have trust into the system will not come back very fast. It will be the consequence of tireless efforts. Fourth, all our efforts have to be inclusive, integrating all stakeholders of humanity, governments, business, civil society, academics and experts, the media, and the young generation, as it is reflected in the composition of the Global Future Councils. And fifth, the collaborative efforts to build our future have to be based on a shared value base. And I have to say, last year we had a council on the importance of values, and we asked the council, and some of you are here in the room, to define 3 values where everybody in the world should agree with. First, to respect the dignity and equity of human beings, whatever their race, gender, or background. Second, the importance of a common good that transcends individual interests. And third, the need for stewardship in the sense of a concern for future generations. That's why we are all here. And in closing, I want to particularly thank you, the members of the Global Future Councils, for your inspiring commitment, for fully engaging your mind, heart, and soul to build a better world, to shape a better future, being aware that we are all part of a global destiny and a global community. I have now the great honor and pleasure to ask Your Excellency, Minister Gergawi, to officially open this meeting.
I'll be speaking in Arabic if you can use your headset.
His Excellency Sheikh Mohammad bin Rashid Al Maktoum, UAE Vice President, Prime Minister, ruler of Dubai, Professor Klaus Schwab, founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, peace be upon you. I'm pleased to welcome you in this first edition of the annual meeting of the Global Future Councils that convenes today in partnership between the government of the UAE and the World Economic Forum. The councils meet to discuss the future in light of the challenges that the world faces today and the opportunities also provided by the fourth industrial revolution. I'm honored through this international meeting that comes as a continuation of the partnership between the UAE government and the WEF to host elites that will have their outlook of the future. Distinguished guests, the UAE was able over 45 years since its foundation to create huge leaps in the economic, social, and knowledge arenas. The UAE is passionately looking towards the future and has played an important role from the region in molding the future of the world. Thanks to the vision of our forefathers, the UAE for a very long time has realized the importance to forecast the future. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, the world in 2016 has passed the point of no return in terms of climate change, where carbon emissions exceeded 400 units per million, and once we have exceeded this threshold, we will no longer be able to control the consequences and repercussions of climate change if we do not take any measures. As you know, the hottest summer days at present will only be a normal day with an average temperature of what can be expected in the future. In light of that, the average demand on water of the world population will increase by 40%, exceeding the available resources in 2030, and the world will need to spend $90 trillion on infrastructure projects over the next 10 years in order to face these quick changes that are linked to climate change, the increase on water resources demand, the increase of populations, and the increased urbanization. As you know, the world over the past 2 years produced only 90% of the available information, which has created to the artificial intelligence revolution and has multiplied our capabilities. For instance, self-driven cars are now available and can cross miles. This constitutes a challenge and opportunity at the same time because they will reduce jobs in developed economies by 50% and 85% in the developed countries. The availability of this information and data about forecasting the future has impacted many fields. For instance, in medicine, the genetic sequencing was reduced 15,000 times over the past decade and are now available to a larger number of the population. This has revolutionized healthcare and promised the population of the world the possibility to celebrate the 120th birthday in good health. Many quick changes which makes the governments and the people of the world feel the uncertainty they are expecting. They are expectant of what will come ahead, which requires multiple vision strategies and frameworks as well as legislations in order to address that. It's imperative to define challenges and discuss them, but this is only part of the solution today with the partnership of the World Economic Forum and through the platform of the Global Future Councils. With 35 expert councils, we are launching a global discussion to discuss the future of vital sectors that are the attention of the world and impact the lives of millions. We attempt to forecast what the next years will bring in terms of challenges and opportunities in the UAE. We firmly believe in this ethical responsibility towards the world and the future generations. Distinguished guests, over the next 2 days, we will have a brainstorming in order to try and answer the questions of the future and to develop the needed framework to overcome these challenges. We'll attempt to give recommendations, suggestions, and report on the issues that will impact the development of societies like healthcare, education, energy, mobility, water security, food security, among others. We commit with our partners in the World Economic Forum to continue our efforts all year long. Our responsibility towards the future will not end with the conclusion of our meetings here. His Excellency Sheikh Mohammed bin, His Highness, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Professor Schwab, distinguished guests. In conclusion, I would like once again to welcome you in this movement to mold the future of the world. And I end quoting His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum that summarizes the essence of our meetings when His Highness said that the future is owned by those who imagine it, design it, and implement it, and that the future is not something we await, but rather is something we make. With you today, and like His Highness said, we are here in order to make a better future for humanity as a whole. Once again, you are welcome in the UAE, and peace be upon you.
Your Excellency, Minister Gergawi, thank you. I think your speech has shown in what precarious situation we are if we look at certain issues which are really determining our future, particularly global warming, but I could add many other issues which really demonstrate that we are a global community. The problem which we have is not globalization. The problem which we have is the lack of global governance, a lack of means, and particularly inclusive means, to address all those issues. But we here can make a very good beginning, because the future certainly belongs to multi-stakeholder approaches. So I wish you very good work, and I think we owe it to our hosts, we owe it to mankind, that when we leave here, we leave also a certain intellectual legacy which will help in the future to bring solutions to the manifold issues we discuss here. Thank you.